The prologue begins with a flashback to 1,000 years ago, where we see a castle on fire and its residents under stress. The soldiers try their best to put out the fire while at the same time they try to fight off the demon army which created this whole mess to begin with. The king of the castle orders everyone to leave as soon as possible, but then we witness a gruesome sight when an innocent woman begs for her life as well her child's. She is being threatened by a demon, who doesn't show any care or concern as he does not believe that humans should have the right to beg for their lives. After the brutal onslaught, we witness the aftermath, and a narrative text tells us that we are currently witnessing the reign of the demon era. We learn that the demons had ruled over humans without mercy during this era, but there were still 3 demon clans which accepted them as equals, with one of them being specifically named the Kusakabe clan. The narrative text explains that key incidents during the demon reign era happened at 3 critical locations, and we're taken to the spot where the Kusakabe clan resided. Now, we see an old demon named Rugon who has been surrounded by the enemy demon forces. He is told to surrender because of his affiliation with the human race, and the demon commander proceeds to threaten him while a demon child watches on with fearful anticipation. The demon commander tells Rugon that his stint is over and he deserves to die because he has identified with the humans, who are nothing more than vermin in the eyes of the evil demons. Rugon doesn't take too kindly to these words and simply states that there must be a peaceful resolution to this whole ordeal. That clearly doesn't seem to fly with the demon commander, as he mocks the old demon for being senile. But then the demon child named Ryuji scolds him for talking back to his father. Ryuji doesn't look like a coward, and the demon commander acknowledges his words while also commenting that he is overpowered beyond imagination, even though he is a little boy. Despite the praises, the demon commander continues to mock Rugon, and comments on how killing Ryuji will be a simple waste of talent. He says that he will allow Ryuji to surrender and train under him, and this can grant him an endless supply of fame, money, and women. These material claims have no effect on our hero, so he immediately refuses the offer, which upsets the demon commander. He states that he will make Ryuji suffer a violent death, but that doesn't deter our hero from being the brave man his father has taught him to be. As Rugon and Ryuji prepare for battle, our hero is told that the Kusakabe clan must survive at any cost, no matter how the fight ends up tonight. Rugon then proceeds to give his son an amulet which burns his hand upon contact. Rugon further explains that the amulet must be kept safely, so that it can be kept away from evil hands right until the day it meets someone worthy enough to control its immense power. Our hero is given further explanation on the amulet, where he learns that the person worthy of its power will find their way to him eventually, but he will have to guard it till then. Ryuji doesn't understand why his dad is talking to him as if this is some kind of farewell speech, but he gets somewhat of a hint when the demon commander strikes Rugon with his sword. He mocks the old demon, stating that he shouldn't lower his guard, but gets an instant reply when Rugon says it'll take more than a sneaky attack to bring him to his knees. Realizing that he has no more time to explain himself, Rugon acts fast and throws his son away, much to everyone's surprise. He then casts a teleportation spell that transports Ryuji to an unknown location. The demon commander, whose name is revealed to be Dono, is angry because he can't get to the prophesized child any longer. But things aren't looking good for Rugon as he has used up too much mana to save his son. He admits that Ryuji still doesn't have the power to defeat Dono and all his demon warriors at the same time, so sending him away was the only logical thing he could do. After this, the old demon decides to give Dono a piece of his mind and starts a speech on how the thirst for power and dominance will only lead to further blindness. Despite the differences in demons and humans, Rugon is still sympathetic towards the weaker species and states that Dono is a highly misguided demon commander. This doesn't rub him the right way, so Dono prepares for battle, and then Rugon unleashes his flame sword to engage in a furious battle. Meanwhile, we are taken to another location where the sky is blue and the mood is peaceful. Our hero lands in the middle of the forest after the teleportation spell takes full effect, and then he finds himself inside an energy ball which is keeping him off the ground. Now, we see Ryuji, who is remembering what his father told him during their final moments together. However, this seemingly turns out to be a dream being visualized by a girl with green hair. She is a bit confused by what she just saw, but then she sees the sun shining brightly on her face, and takes a look at the clock to realize that she is very late. The girl panics and laments that she doesn't even have the time to take a bath. She also curses her little brother named Charlie, who was supposed to wake her up earlier. The girl's name is revealed to be Midori, and she charges at Charlie, who is making breakfast while wearing an apron. She doesn't understand his sense of fashion, but he comments that this was given to him by their friend Angelica, who thought the apron looked cute on him. There's still no time for excuses, as Midori realizes that her boss had called her as well. But Charlie had simply cut the call because he thought this was just another excuse for the boss to flirt with Midori. The green girl doesn't know what else to do, so she calls him up and is greeted by a rather unpleasant roar. The boss, whose name is revealed to be Zango, is not at all happy with the fact that Midori has not been responding to his calls, and he scolds her for being rude without realizing that this was actually Charlie's fault. Anyway, Midori needs to be in office within 10 minutes, and she laments the fact that Zango is always demanding so much from her. Charlie gets nervous because he feels that he's the one to blame for not waking up his sister at the right time. But Midori tells him to chill and sets out for work. She says that she will also be heading towards the forest, so she'll take time in coming back home. As Midori steps out for another day at work, an angel looks upon her and seems to be pleased with her body. The angel even identifies Midori to be the perfect vessel to inhabit. And we figure that we are currently viewing the present, which is 1,000 years after whatever we saw with Ryuji. Now, some narrative text appears and tells us that the current world is only possible because of the work of 3 families. These families had come together to defeat the demon army and free humanity from their chains, due to which their names have been bestowed upon the kingdoms governing the modern world, with each kingdom having its own set of rules and regulations. Then, we are introduced to the first kingdom of Novarain, known as the symbol of pride and honor. Next is the kingdom of Ruthrax, which is meant to symbolize power and might. And the final kingdom is that of Lunastria, which is the symbol of peace and freedom. The narrative text makes us a bit more familiar with our surroundings by saying Midori lives in the town of Edward, which comes under the kingdom of Novarain. We see the green girl running as fast as she can, and after an eventful sprint, she finally makes it to the Pan Bakery, which is her place of work. It takes her 20 minutes to reach it, and while Midori huffs and puffs like a successful vixen, Chef Zango is not at all pleased with his employees' behavior. While the head chef looks angry and arrogant, he is actually quite short, as can be seen when he is compared to his daughter, who is suspiciously tall. Regardless, Zango figures there's no time to complain, and tells Midori to get to work. But he first asks her to take a shower because he feels she is smelling different today. His daughter berates him for acting creepy, and then Midori changes into her bakery costume, which makes her look quite attractive. That's when we meet Angelica, who asks Midori if she would be interested in seeing some of her guy friends at a mixer party later. It turns out that Midori is wanted and admired by everyone because of her cute appeal, but she isn't interested in playing any romantic games, so Angelica figures she'll just have to say no to the enthusiastic crowd. Now, the girls start chatting about the apron Angelica gave to Charlie, and Midori lies to her about what her brother said because she doesn't want to upset the blonde babe. However, Chef Zango has a keen eye, and he spots the girls lagging behind, so he orders them to get to work immediately. Later, Angelica decides to come over and meet Charlie because she wants to see him in her apron. Midori is fine with the idea, as she is going to take time in the forest, looking for herbs. However, she asks Angelica to take it easy with the outfits, because she doesn't want Charlie to get carried away with all the gifts he's been getting. The girls split up as Midori heads into the forest, but Angelica asks her to be careful, and not take up too much time, as she is not allowed to be outside at night. The green girl understands this, and tells Angelica that she will see her later at home once she has all the herbs she needs. Midori heads into the forest with her yellow dress and green hair, but doesn't find any of the herbs that she requires. This is a bit too strange for her, because she hasn't faced this kind of problem before. She even moves further into the forest, and the background gets darker, suggesting something ominous. Midori wonders if she should go back home and even spots a sign that echoes her sentiments. However, she spots a path that's going even deeper into the forest, and it makes her wonder if she should take the risk to get the herbs she wants. It's a bit of a dilemma for her, but at the end of it, she decides to raise her confidence and give it a shot. She feels that there's nothing to gain if she doesn't venture out of her comfort zone, and while the theory seems nice when you think about it, the reality is rarely the same. That's exactly what happens here as the green girl laments her earlier decision. She comments that she ventured a lot, but gained nothing and is now flat on the floor, feeling upset over her failed efforts. She gives up on finding the herbs and figures she needs to head back home because the sun is starting to set, and Charlie and Angelica must be worried for her right now. Midori gets up and begins her journey back home. But this is not the end of her worries, as she hears a creepy voice call out her name. This alerts Midori and she gets shocked into an almost frozen state. The voice calls out to her and asks her to come closer, as we also see the same amulet that Ryuji was given by his dad around 1,000 years ago. These visions are a bit too much for a cute girl to handle, so Midori falls back onto the ground and snaps out of it. She wonders what this feeling was all about and also remembers the amulet that she briefly saw in her vision. She also remembers seeing someone and worries that this is a coincidence, considering she had a very similar dream earlier today. Midori wants to get to the bottom of this, so she looks ahead and finds a dark corner which is seemingly standing out to her. She also recalls that the voice she heard was that of a woman, but it wasn't spoken out loud. Instead, Midori could hear this voice in her head, and it makes her even more curious as to what's going on. The green girl decides to move further ahead and crosses the trees and bushes to make her way up to a giant tree. It's an amazing sight to behold, and Midori comments on its size before she starts calling out to the female voice. She wants to know if this woman is nearby, but she doesn't consider the fact that she's in a haunted area. Luckily, Midori comes back to her senses and realizes that she is following random voices which she might have just imagined in her head. She doesn't even have her basket with her, so she decides to get it and return to Charlie and Angelica. However, Midori steps on the ground and it cracks open to reveal some kind of trapdoor. The green girl doesn't have any time to react to this, and she falls through the hole in an instant. Despite hitting the floor hard, Midori gets up and laments her state of luck the entire day. She is a bit confused as to why there's an underground room in the middle of a spooky forest, but this is no time to be asking questions, so she tries to figure a way out of the trap room. However, Midori spots a skull next to her and panics after realizing that she's in a room filled with skeletons. The smell is bad enough to take in, and Midori wonders if this was some kind of torture chamber or dungeon. However, she spots someone seated in a chair while also covered by an energy sphere. This person turns out to be Ryuji, and as expected, the chosen one has found her way to him. But what is Midori going to do next? Like, share, and subscribe to find out more in the next video. I'll see you soon.